For more on the humanitarian situation, we're going to Amman in Jordan to speak to Ahmed Bayram from the Norwegian Refugee Council. He's their Middle East spokesperson. Ahmed, appreciate your time. There is a lot of focus on Lebanon right now, but the conditions in Gaza, as we heard there from Ashraf, are incredibly dire, possibly getting even worse. Your organization says 25,000 sealing off kits need to be delivered. Just tell us what these kits are and why they're so important to people in Gaza.
Yes, I mean, these kits are simple tools that any family will need to have anything that resembles a shelter or a tent. And to simplify, it's just simple tools like tarps, plastic sheets that you use for a tent, some duct tapes, and some plastic sheets, as I said. I mean, these are basics that any family will need to put up a tent. Of course, a year since this all began, and a year since they received probably their first shelters. Now these shelters that they have gone through the wear and tear, of course. And you know, the level of aid that we need on that side in terms of shelters will require some 25 trucks to enter per week, and the numbers that we have right now is just 2 trucks of shelter. So anyone who is staying in a tent, who is staying in a damaged home, who is staying in these schools that you talked about in your report, will have to spend a harsh winter without the basics that anybody needs for a very basic human life that is, of course, doesn't qualify to what a proper life should be like.
And you speak about these 25 trucks that are needed per week. Only 2 are getting in. I mean, in terms of trying to get aid actually into the enclave, how does that work right now? Because it's minimal, 2 trucks per week. It's so difficult to comprehend how much aid actually then reaches people who are in desperate need of it.
It is, and you see the pictures and you see the impact and consequences of that. And of course, in terms of aid, the wider picture here is that we have hit a rock bottom in terms of the number of trucks that cross into Gaza on a daily basis. And now we're talking about an average of 69 trucks in September, which is the lowest so far since the beginning of this outrageous conflict. And of course, I mean, when we talk about, the impact on civilians, it means that people, don't forget, there's so many who are now living close to the coast, close from the beach, who were not there last year, who still had a home to stay in. Now they are, of course, very close from the coast, from the ocean, really, and now people have to figure out how to spend an entire winter in these conditions. So, on top of the lack of food, lack of clean water, lack of essentials of a human life. So we are calling on these, countries and powers that hold sway over politics to hold sway over the humanitarian catastrophe that we are living through, and to push Israel to allow more trucks in, to secure the routes for aid workers to bring aid in, and of course to reach a ceasefire that will end this suffering for civilians.
Is that then your appeal to countries that have influence over Israel to allow all of this to happen? Because, of course, there is a desperate need for a ceasefire, but given now the expansion of Israel's strikes into other parts of the region, is that just also moving us further away from a peace deal?
I hope not. I hope not, even though the events on the ground reflect otherwise. I think these countries have so far, I mean, clearly failed to convince Israel to draw back and to scale down and to de-escalate and end with a ceasefire. On the contrary, Israel is going ahead with more plans for apparently another ground incursion into Lebanon, which of course will lead to more destruction and more civilian deaths. So the Gaza scenario is being copied here somehow, with the statements that we hear and with the declarations that we hear. I think these countries have not, and you talk about influence, I'm not sure how much influence they have left over Israel, but clearly they are giving an impression, they are giving a picture, a very grim picture here actually of almost no influence over these affairs, particularly on the humanitarian level, which I'm speaking to here. And of course, yeah, we are looking at another season of suffering for civilians, for children who are sick, who are hungry, and who are living sleepless nights under the bombardment.
So difficult to imagine what that's going to be like for the more than 1 million people in Gaza. Ahmed Bayram from the Norwegian Refugee Council, thanks for speaking to us.